When I travel, I like to take a PC handheld with me, and also a much smaller guy. The PC handheld is way more versatile, but I still like to have something small and pocketable for quick games. Something I can pull out and put away easily. Well, what if we can make these emulation handhelds just as versatile, eliminating the need for the PC handheld altogether? Alright, that's a bit of a stretch. There's a really cool way to put some of your Steam games on your retro handhelds. This method is only going to work with the Anbernic XX series right now. I'm looking at doing this to my 35XX SP and the 40XX-V. Anbernic controversially shipped these two devices with PC ports already on them. What's even more baffling is that Anbernic hasn't given us a way to put our own PC ports on their device with their stock firmware. So as of right now, you can't put your own games on their firmware. Only they can put games on their firmware. So to put PC games on here, it's going to require a separate firmware. But don't worry, it's extremely easy to put on. Just this past week, MUOS, or MUOS, I'm probably going to mess up that pronunciation throughout this whole video. Well, it got an update. It's a lot better now. It fixes some quality of life stuff on some of the Anbernic devices, things that aggravated me. And with MUOS, we can use Portmaster to transfer some of our Steam purchases surprisingly easily. Now, this doesn't work for every Steam game, but there is a surprising amount of compatibility, and it's as easy as just drag and dropping some files. Within just a few minutes, you can be playing some of the newest Steam games on your small, pocketable handheld. You want a smaller Steam Deck? Well, maybe you already have one.
This video is sponsored by Factor. Hey, people really like it when I yell on these ads, but I wanted to give my voice a break, so we're gonna do a little Factor ASMR today. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is eat and enjoy. Skip the grocery store prep work and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-curated, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. And they've got smoothies and juices and also wellness shots. Oh, would you look at that? It's ready. Yes. Gah! Die, you mother. Yeah. Yes. Or you could just pop it in the microwave if you're in a hurry. Sometimes I forget to eat, so having Factor ready to go in the fridge has been great for me. You can try it for yourself over at factor75.com/you're hungry50 and get 50% off of your first Factor box and 20% off of your next month of orders.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Hey, use the mitt!
I'm ASMRing.
I decided to do this on my 35XX SP because I figure it's very popular, a lot of people have this, and it's probably the one that I use the most. But I'm also going to be doing this on my 40XX-V because I heard that this new version of MUOS has some fixes for the horrible thumbstick that I bitched about a lot in my video. I'm very skeptical of these fixes. I went to the MUOS website and I couldn't find a tutorial anywhere on how to do it, but I've done it before and it's surprisingly easy to figure out. You'll need a fresh micro SD card and you'll need to download Balena Etcher. If you've used that before, this will be a breeze. You can get the version of MUOS that you need from their website under the releases section. Make sure you get the right one. The newest release is available for every Anbernic XX system aside from the new Cube XX. Yes, they're making a Cube XX because Anbernic cannot be stopped. Place your fresh micro SD card into the computer, run it through Balena Etcher. It will be wiped. It just takes a few minutes. Then you have a bootable MUOS drive. Most Anbernic devices have 2 micro SD card slots. The devices come with a micro SD card that has the stock firmware on it already. Take this micro SD card completely out, then place the new MUOS drive in that same slot. That way this process can be completely reversible. You can always go back to the stock firmware if you want to by just popping the old micro SD card back in. When you turn the device back on, MuOS will take a few minutes to set everything up while it shows some sus commentary on screen.
I fear our government's funds are being misappropriated. The previous message was a lie. Are we still here? I want to play games already. Life is too short to stuff a mushroom, but I do it anyway. I fear the government's funds are being misappropriated. Better keep that drink referred. What the f is happening?
And then that's it. You have MuOS set up. If you'd like, you can take your old micro SD card that has the stock Anbernic firmware, and you can just place that in the second micro SD card slot if your device has that. That way, all of your old ROMs will show up in a separate folder in the File Explorer. I don't think the UI of MuOS is any improvement over the stock experience. I also don't think the emulation quality is any better. Some people just like this OS better. I just don't really. But it does fix the thumbstick on the V. Stock, for whatever reason, Anbernic thumbsticks often snap to cardinal directions, making certain 3D games control very poorly. This device is the same as one of their older devices with an added thumbstick, but the thumbstick is terrible. So it made this device not worth anyone's time. Turns out all they had to do was take care of the software. But they don't have time to work on the software between their litany of hardware releases. So it's up to the homebrew community. That makes perfect sense. And now it works just fine. I'm not sure I'd want to go through all of this trouble just to play a game with a thumbstick, but it's nice to know that the option's there and that the hardware is even capable of it. But that's not why we're here. We're here for Portmaster. And before we get into that, you're going to want to connect your device to Wi-Fi. It's not 100% necessary, but it will make the process exponentially easier. Just make sure you press X to scan for your Wi-Fi. I typed my network ID in a few times manually with controller typing like an asshole. Now you can just open up Portmaster from the applications section. It will go through a very short setup. Then I would just make sure it's set up to use the right micro SD card. Once that's all done, you can browse the litany of compatible games. You can also browse this list on their website, portmaster.games. Obviously, all of these games are pretty low powered. You're looking at retro-inspired indie games and retro ports, but it's still fun to be able to move your Steam purchases over to a tiny little device like this. Pick a game like UFO 50, for example. You can either download the package from their website or just download it straight from the Portmaster app on the device itself. I found it easier to do it on the device because it puts all of the files exactly where they need to go. This is not all of the files though, because that would be a crime. The Portmaster website tells you what files you need and where they need to go. In the case of UFO 50, you need to dump all of the data from the game's Steam folder on your PC into the game data folder that Portmaster created on your device's micro SD card. Obviously, this requires a legally acquired version of the game. That way everything here is above board. Now you just turn your device on, go to the Explore tab, ROMs 1, ports, UFO 50, and now it will start a whole installation process. This is different for every game. UFO 50 happened to have a rather lengthy installation process, about 20 minutes long. But when it's done, you've got this brand new Steam game running pretty great on your low-powered retro handheld. At first glance, it performs pretty great, but it's not without its limitations. Some of the mini games run flawlessly. I noticed Velgress takes a really long time to load in, and it runs just a bit slow overall. So it's not the optimal experience.
Oh boy.
Gravity Circuit runs pretty flawlessly. It's not the easiest to control with a tiny device like this. Also, most of these games are 16:9, so they're scaled a little small on these 4:3 devices. But again, it's just cool that it's here at all. Celeste feels the most at home on here because of its simple controls. I was a little disappointed to learn that you can't just use the Steam release of Celeste, so I had to buy the itch.io version. This is now the third time that I've purchased Celeste. This is the reality of being a fan of emulation. Celeste requires you to pull the Linux version off of itch.io. Otherwise, the process is the same as the rest. Just move some files over to the folder Portmaster created on the microSD card, and everything runs great. This game maybe surprised me the most because even the 3D menus performed beautifully. I was tipped off to play a Mario 64 port called Render 96EX. It's sort of like the PC ports of Mario 64, but on this tiny device. Also, don't sue me. Here's an old video of me ripping my own Mario 64 ROM. This port does require a Mario 64 ROM, and you need to rename it to baserom.us.z64 and drop it into the Render 96EX folder. Not every Mario 64 ROM will work, so try a few. When you load the port up on your Anbernic device, it'll go through a setup process. It's unclear whether or not the start button or the A button advances through this setup. It looks like it freezes up pretty frequently, but just be patient, it's working, I swear. Eventually, you'll be greeted with a beautiful looking Mario 64 that has no music, and some of the sounds are cut off. But it looks really cool. It looks like what the promotional renders of Mario 64 looked like. It's also running at a much higher frame rate. There's also a few quality of life options. You can also change to a more detailed model pack, which looks even better.
Whoa, that looks crazy.
But it slows the game down substantially, so I turned that off. One game that I really wanted to try and that others have had a good time with is Balatro. I've been playing that a lot on my iPhone because it just came to Apple Arcade, and also my MacBook. There is a way to get it on here, but I couldn't figure out how to get the Apple Arcade version on here, probably because I don't actually own that version. It's part of a subscription. But you can get the Steam version, both the PC Steam version and the Mac Steam version, onto here using Portmaster. I'm at my limit of buying games for this thing. I'm perfectly fine just playing it on my phone and my MacBook. Portmaster also has a few ready-to-run games, some freeware games like VVVVVV, or free fan games like some of these homebrewed Sonic games. These can be downloaded right from the device and come in a full working order. So even if you don't want to transfer some of your Steam purchases to this device, you can at the very least unlock a whole library of games that weren't previously available to you. That's at least worth checking out. So I set up MUOS and Portmaster on two devices, my SP and my V here. I set it up on the V first, and then I tried to just take all of the files and just fart them over to my SP's micro SD card. I don't recommend doing that. It is technically possible, but it is just much easier to do the whole process over again on the other devices you want to do it on. There are unique setups for each individual game that's just a lot easier if you do the whole process over again. Plus, Portmaster makes all of the folders for you, and it takes just a couple of minutes to move those files from your Steam folder on your desktop over to the device that you want to put it on. The limiting factors here are the hardware limitations, obviously, and also the games that are supported. I think they've done a fantastic job with the support that's available right now. UFO 50 just came out and it's already supported. They even had to make a whole installer just for UFO 50. I'm sure once this becomes more popular and more people start using it, there will be more interest and there will be a lot more compatibility, which rules. I love the idea of being able to take some of my Steam games and putting them in a much smaller form factor. Sometimes I bring a retro handheld and a PC handheld with me because maybe I'm playing a certain game on Steam that I want access to, as well as having a little guy by my side. Now I can do even more with just a little guy, no big PC handheld necessary. If you have one of these devices already, definitely check out MUOS and Portmaster. It's non-destructive if you use a separate micro SD card and costs you nothing. If you don't have an Anbernic device yet and this whole idea is tempting you into wanting to get one, maybe go to portmaster.games first and browse the catalog that's there and see if you're happy with the compatibility that's there. See if there's some games that you have on your Steam library that you would want to play on your little Anbernic device when you get one. You might be surprised by what's available, but I definitely don't want you to be disappointed. Just because they have some of the games that I like to play on here doesn't mean that they'll have your favorite, I don't know, Five Nights at Freddy's game or whatever the you guys play. What do you guys think about getting some of your PC games over onto your Ambernick devices? This is just a cool way to extend your compatibility on these things. Leave it in the comments below, at me on Twitter, any and all of this other social media garbage. A lot of the stuff we did here was streamed over on twitch.tv/wolfden, and I had some help from chat. So if you like these videos, I would suggest going over there and hanging out. You can be a part of the video. For the love of God, subscribe to this channel so you know when new videos come out. And you can click the bell to get a little notification on your phone. That's how YouTube works. And you can share this video with a friend who has one of these, who wants to extend the compatibility a little bit. Thank you very much. I'm getting a call. Hello? A little goof. I did a little goof.